I gather the majority are probably Richard's acquaintances, which is fine. Primarily the call's about science, not really business numbers, okay? So we have at least 2 hours. So does anyone want to step forward and tell us what their vision is of the nano super immunity, of what they've experienced and what they want to do with the gifts of Nano Soma?
So this is Rob. I can start. So my name is Rob Markovic. I'm in California, Northern California, in the San Francisco Bay Area. And I found Nano Soma quite a while ago and have been talking to Richard and Raghu for some time. I also have several circles of friends who are sort of also patients in the area that have some diseases that they haven't been able to resolve through the medical system. And we've found that Nano Soma has been able to harmonize their body's cellular systems and energetic systems to a point where they can start a regenerative process and recovery. Maybe about 4 to 5 months ago, I was in a park and I was enjoying some time with a friend tossing a frisbee disc. And shortly after that, there was some itching. I went home and just, thought, hey, I am a sensitive person. I have allergies. Maybe the grass had affected me, and that's what that is, right? So throughout the rest of the evening, it developed into a much bigger rash. And it began spreading. And so I quickly deduced that this was not allergy related. It was something along the lines of poison oak or poison ivy. Doing some research on the subject, of course, there are specific treatments medically, certain creams and other things that take about 2 weeks to complete, right, for the symptoms to completely subside. At that point, I decided to take things into my own hands, learning that the particular substance is a acid that is invisible and sticky. It's quite heinous. I found a way to neutralize it with baking soda. So of course I went and stripped down and took a shower and rubbed baking soda all over, and that of course helped. And that also sort of agitates the skin to a point where it's still itchy and not completely recovered. But a couple of sprays of Nano Soma on the affected areas for that day and the next day, and it completely went away. So the skin had no more redness, no more rashes, no more itching. This type of acid substance, and it's invisible, was spread to other pieces like my chair and certain clothes, right? One of those. Apparently in the park, when they mow the lawn, they bring equipment, and wherever that equipment was before, it was tainted with this oil. It's called urushiol, and they mowed the lawn and of course contaminated the lawn. So Nano Soma is amazing for things like that. Skin issues get resolved very quickly. I can tell you about a MS patient. So this MS patient has been degenerating for quite some time, and to a point where his vision was failing him, and he couldn't stay awake for very long, more than a couple of hours a day. So his energy levels were extremely low. Brain function diminished, and his ability to process visual inputs severely diminished. After I had started him on some Nano Soma, which is a whole other longer story because he's actually being treated by a doctor in-house and not getting better, he began to slowly recover and regain his mental capacity, his vision, and energy levels. So that took quite some time, maybe about 2 months. But the improvement was, of course, noticed, and they're going to continue down that path.
Rob, if I could just provide a little input to you. More recently than when you got engaged with this, Raghu has defined a startup protocol for pretty much anyone who has an existing condition. It's relatively recent. I would have sent it to you, I expect, or maybe not. And basically what he advocates now is if you've got any kind of pre-existing health condition, which frankly is a good majority of us on one level or another, he now recommends using first bottle in the first week, second bottle over 2 weeks, and then after that you settle into 5 sprays once a day. So in other words, the first bottle you use 5 sprays 4 times a day. Once you've used it up, you use 5 sprays twice a day until you use the second bottle up, and then you go from there. And that front loading does seem to be important in
I understand.
startup.
I've also found
Great.
that pattern to be a little more effective. Yes.
I got a question. My name is Darryl McCrae. My company is House of Nubian. My question is this. Basically, this product to me is, what's it called? Nano Soma, which I understand that. And it's basically a polycosanol. Is that the right terminology? Polycosanol?
Yes.
Okay, now polycosanol, as I understand it, is a cholesterol-lowering medicine. So if that's the case, I understand it lowering your cholesterol, but the reading about this from your website and the information I'm getting, where do these other things come from? It's 96% water and 3 point whatever% different stuff. And I've been using the stuff myself. I've had a few reactions to myself that are great for me, but I want to know, polycosanol is, again, a cholesterol-lowering drug. How is it that a cholesterol-lowering drug will give people these vast results that I've read about?
Let me go back and explain to you how it started, polycosanol. So it was actually, the first time they found out was in 1931. That's when it began. And in the 70s, late 70s and 80s, the US government had an embargo on Cuba for statin drugs. They said statin was supposed to be the wonder drug, okay? So they decided to look for alternatives. And they looked at sugarcane because they're the biggest crop in Cuba. So what they found was, you see, if you crush sugarcane, what you get is a juice which is light brown or, milky white in color. Then what they do is they filter it through a filter paper or something like a high, that traps all these particles. And then when what you get down is actually clear water, which they then, add carbon or whatever, remove all the colors, and then let it crystallize and they get white sugar. But what is stuck when you filter is my product. What the farmers in the olden days used to do was they would throw it back to the fields. And they found that it reduces cholesterol. But the problem with that was the bioavailability is very low. It's less than 1%. All the 99 other things comes out in your poop, that's it. Nothing. So there was no efficacy. But what we did, what everybody was trying to do, was to increase the solubility, because you see, your body is over 75% water. So everybody was trying to make it more bioavailable. Everybody tried and failed, but we succeeded, and we are able to make it stable. And when we do that, we have a nanoparticle 50 nanometers. Just to put it in perspective, the COVID virus is about 100 nanometers. My particle size is 50 nanometers. It can go right through the virus. And when you do the nanoparticle, it has amazing properties, because what happens is the surface area of the particle is very high now. Before it was very low, because it was either a tablet or it was just a powder. So there was no absorption. I mean, if you take any product, it doesn't absorb, it comes out. It has to get into the bloodstream. But when we made a nanoparticle, all the properties got revealed because it's 50 nanometers. So we found that it affects something called nuclear receptors in the body. So you got about 48 nuclear receptors. This is the software of the body. Very little things get in there except those that have been part of an evolutionary process. And this product, polycosanol, is present in every food you eat. The surface of every food contains this product. Okay, but the way we process the food and grow the food, that percentage has changed and it is not effective. We have now restored it to its rightful place by making it into nano solution, which is stable for years, for 3-4 years is the shelf life. But nanoparticles have unique properties because of the size. They can get into the cell, right into the nucleus, and affect all the nuclear receptors, which is the software of the body. So that is why it works in many diseases, like even jobs. So that is why.
All right. So basically, you're saying because this polycosanol is in a nano size, it is able to penetrate the body more easily and do these wonderful things that it does. That's what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. So then the polycosanol that they sell at Walmart and Dwayne Reed and stuff like that.
Totally.
What's the difference?
Those are big size. The particle size are like 2,000 to 5,000 nanometers. Mine is 50. And mine is water soluble. See, your body prefers water soluble product all the time. Just like the wax in honey, beeswax. Beeswax also contains polycosanol. But you have to make it available to the body in a certain form. We do that. And that's why we succeeded. That is why we got a patent for a natural product, which was the big problem because they don't give it. But we were able to show that it is not obvious that if you make a nano, all these properties happen. You can say, okay, I made it nano, it's a better cholesterol drug, but we got all these properties. So it could not be forecast if you did it. So that is why we got the patent. I mean, we have a lot of very minute details of how it works. At the gene level, we have done gene expression studies. What are the genes expressed? We've done everything. So ordinary polycosanol doesn't do that.
The whole entire magic here is that it's a nano size particle.
Correct.
50.
Absolutely. That's the difference.
All right.
Nano is very different from other things. I mean, if you took, for example, a piece of silver and took it into your mouth, it's pretty harmless, but it has no efficacy. But you see, in Amazon sells nano silver. It's antibacterial. It's exactly the same. If you make any drug water soluble, your body has a better ability to absorb it. Okay, that is why you want it to get into the bloodstream. They try to give you injection because that goes straight into the bloodstream, bypassing the stomach. Or you make it water soluble. Water soluble, see, you drink water all the time. Many of our foods, your body is 72 to 75% water. So this is the key. The key is you have to make it water soluble. It's a small particle to go into the nucleus of each cell and control the software. And it's also an intelligent machine. It's like going, you take your car to a repair guy and, he attaches some cables and looks at the computer and says, sir, you have the following problems. Same way, this product is about 2 billion years old. It came before life began. The world's one of the first molecules of life for lipids. So lipids know how to control what's inside the cell by giving signals. So this brings the signals to the cell and says, hey guys, I taught you this to do this 2 billion years ago. You've forgotten it. You're doing it the wrong way. This is the way to do it. So this is what it is teaching the system. It's the teacher of what is inside the cell. That's the way I look at it. We started marketing in the end of 2014 in Malaysia. What we found is that each person who improved with whatever symptoms he had, he told 10 other people. We didn't even spend on advertising, pure word of mouth. So, and we're still doing it. We have never failed with any patient. We have never had a single complaint. That is very important because it's totally safe.
Mm-hmm.
And we have.
It's a big world. 10 people keep telling 10 people. Takes a year. The whole world knows.
We have succeeded with each and every patient in random countries, random people. We have never failed. I mean, today I have the recording with me, and my guy in India is on the line. He's also one of the participants. We had a person, a boy, I believe, 11 or 12 years old. for nephrotic syndrome. Nephrotic syndrome is very high protein in the urine. There is no solution for it. FDA classifies this as a orphan disease because there's no drugs for it. They give a lot of steroids and all. You know, your face goes up. You can't pass urine. You're horrible. This kid, after 3 days, swelling went away, and he was passing normal urine. He's perfectly back to normal. Just today, this morning, it happened. Mr. Murli is one of the participants. He can tell you. So these are the kinds of things we hear every day. Okay, 3 days. That's all it takes. We get rid of the virus.
This is Amanda and Lorraine from Australia in Queensland. Mm-hmm. And Lorraine is a master intuitive and extraordinary at what she does. I'm a physical therapist. And we've both been we met Richard and we've been using the Nano Soma now for maybe 6 months. Mm. And have noted, we love it and have a great deal of faith in it and would love to create a business out of it. My experience, and then you can explain yours, and we had a couple of questions. My experience, I didn't notice anything dramatic just taking it twice a day. I think I had a little more energy, but I didn't notice anything in particular. And then it's a bit vulnerable saying this, but Raghu, it's such an opportunity to have you on the line. I said to Richard that I'm 66, and I'm looking forward to being aged 45 biologically soon. Anyway, so I have had herpes for over 30 years. And I asked Richard if it would work with that. And Raghu, that's when Richard told me about the protocol for pre-existing condition. So I started a 4 times a day protocol. And it was really interesting because it brought out a huge, I had spent many years not getting it more than once a year, but it had started to come up a bit more. And now I think about it, probably more so since I've been on the Nano Soma. But then I started the heavy duty protocol and it just kind of exploded. Mm-hmm. And was quite difficult, but I've maintained that because I really want to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. And I don't quite know how to describe it, but I sort of feel stronger. And I did get another episode after the big blow-up episode, but it was much less, less intense and less ulcers. Mm-hmm. So, Raghu, have you heard of anyone else who's gotten rid of herpes?
Let me explain to you what really happens. We are made up of 90% of our body is bacteria and virus. Yes. 7% is something called junk DNA, and 3% is the so-called human genes. Okay. Now, what happens with the viruses is that they go and hide in many places. Okay. So there is an imbalance. All these viruses are benign to begin with. Okay, 99.9% of the viruses and bacteria are about benign, but our environment and lifestyle allows the imbalance to happen. So these viruses start multiplying. So they spread everywhere over time. See, if you get herpes attacks, it doesn't happen overnight. There's a time over which it's happened. And over the years, if you have done nothing, try to control with other drugs, you have created other viruses to attack you. So over time, you have a situation where these viruses go to every part of your body and hide. And some of the areas where they hide is actually the bone marrow.
Oh.
So this product being so small, it goes into the bone marrow, which we see, pulls it out, and that's when you get this blowout.
Right. Ah.
So what happens is, the other place it hides is somewhere here, okay? Between the nose up here, nasal. So what you do is, you get one of those, nasal sprays, cheap one, throw it out, wash it out, put the Nano Soma in and squirt it. So it's also hiding here. So, okay. So that should clear it. We are seeing this. Yeah. So that is why all viruses, including so-called COVID or whatever, they enter through the nose. Here is where they hide.
Thank you, Raghu.
That part of the body, this here, is where your immune system is the weakest. They're very smart. That's where they go. So those are the areas. You get that spray, get that bottle, nasal spray, cheap one, throw it out, wash it, add Soma there, squirt it up. You will see a huge changes. I mean, we are seeing with COVID patients within a day. I mean, we just had a case in India because the hospital, it's a very rich people hospital, they refused to allow to go in. So the family wanted to use my product. So, India, the laws are malleable. So they bribed the guy outside and they allowed them to use it. Next day, she was out of the hospital 2 days later. And the doctor said, oh, I cured you. That was not the reason. So.
Well, I would like to express my gratitude to you because for the first time, I really feel like it's going to be gone.
It'll be gone. So just see, for initially, a lot of people, I didn't realize it could go here, but somebody, one of my distributors in Portland happened to try it, and she mentioned it. That's when I said, okay, see, if you can get any drug into your lung, it'll be 100% effective because from the lungs, you have the blood vessels go to every part of the body. That's why everybody's nasal. They want to do nasal insulin and all that stuff because that's the place to go. But they
once you squirt it up here, it will go into the sinuses and the lungs.
Yeah. From here, it'll go to the lungs.
So it's going to be brilliant for any kind of sinus issue too.
Yeah, absolutely. No, what I'm saying is use it in the mouth because that goes to the bone marrow. But here is the weakest area of the human body where the immune system is the weakest because nature has designed us that way to breathe the air. Otherwise, if it's going to fight everything that comes here, you're going to get a headache all the time. So that part is weaker. So it lets whatever bacteria go through into the system. But these guys don't go. They stay here.
Awesome.
You can get it out.
Thank you.
A lot of people who reported us about this. I tell them, take this, do that. It's okay. In India, a lot of people experiment. They call me and said, I did this, I did that. So that's how we found out.
Thank you very much, Raghu. Yeah. You've got a question?
I think one of the, not concerns, one of my observations, Raghu, was I work as an intuitive. So I work as originally a medical intuitive and I have no medical background at all. So I work with people all around the world. So I see things that others don't see. I see things that microscopes with MRIs and things like that do not see. And one of the interesting things that I found when I first heard about the product, because I don't actually have to have it in my hand, was that it actually works very well on it reharmonizes, shall I say, because most people's DNA, which I don't really understand, actually have small gaps or imperfections in them. But what I've been watching with it, with myself and with a client that I put onto it, was that I'm watching the change in the DNA strand. I'm watching the gap that was actually, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like a little cut in it, or a dent or a hollow in it. But I'm actually watching the DNA strand getting stronger. And so as a result of that, as people are continuing to take it, it's not just their symptoms that are improving, all right? They're not just becoming symptom-free. They're actually becoming more consolidated in their whole being. So their DNA is actually responding much better, and it's healing, right? So it's healing those imperfections in the DNA. And the other thing that, when you were talking about using it in your mouth and in your nose and on skin and external like that, and the nanoparticle, when I watch the nanoparticle, it actually gets into not just the bloodstream, all right? It actually penetrates the internal tissue, but it gets into the microfibers of the tissue. But it also gets in much deeper than that, where you can't actually see it with any sort of technical microscope or anything else like that. You can't test it. But when I watch it, I actually see how it's going in there and how it's actually starting to take a lot of the, shall we say, heat out of viruses, out of bacteria and things like that. And it's interesting when you do it with your nose too, because when you put it up your nose, it actually just does the nose, but it actually helps the pineal gland too. And that's a massive part of why it was here, to actually clean out, open up the pineal gland so that people can then start to have a remembrance of their authentic self, why they're here. All right. And when you look at it in all of those different perspectives, when I look at it like that, I actually start to see how every single human has been manipulated through, through drugs, through chemicals, and the biology. But what this is actually doing is going right back to, into the very core of the structure of the human being. It doesn't just hit the cells. It goes much, much deeper than that. Much deeper.
I was told by one of the scholars in India, as a Vedic scholar, that it works in 14 dimensions. And I can't do more than 3, 4, but he said it works in 14 dimensions. So it's way beyond what I can think of. But this product does one thing we have done by gene expression. See, you have 20,000 genes in your body, according to. Now, those genes perform a set of functions, about, hundreds of functions. When you take my product, with that, it produces only, we know, 2,300 genes or whatever, but it mimics exactly what the human genome, 20,000 genes are doing. So it's basically a second life. So I create a life here with this product. You have a life here of the genome here. It compares whatever is missing is filled in, whatever is excess is pulled out. That's what is happening. So
That's a brilliant description.
Yeah, I have the pictures. I haven't shown you that, but that's some of the work we have done with the gene expression studies. It mimics the human genome. So it is basically, because it came 2 billion years ago, before DNA and RNA, all these guys came. So he the godfather of the other molecules that came later, like vitamin D receptor we talk about, that came only 750 million years ago. But this guy is 2 billion years old. He gave birth to life. So he knows, like you're a mother, you gave birth to your children, you know them far better than anybody else. Okay? And this is the way this guy knows. So when he comes into your system, he's basically saying, hey guys, look, I taught you 2 billion years ago to do the following things. You guys, I don't know what you did, you haven't learned the lesson. So start doing X, Y, A, B, C, D, E. And that's exactly what it's doing. So the viruses and the bacteria came much later. But this guy, because he was on the outside of the cell protecting you, he was looking always out for dangers. So any danger, the signal would go back inside the cell and say, guys, we have a problem coming, get ready, do X, Y, Z, A, B, C. So that's exactly what's happening, I think. This would describe the whole process. And I see the fact that we reproduce the human genome with my product. When you take my product, you get something like 250,000 gene-to-gene interaction which have mapped. I know which gene interacts with which gene. Now, if you take a drug like metformin, there's only 880 interactions that happen. That is, we know in science. But I have 250,000 things happening in your body. 250,000. It's a huge number. Okay, and I have mapped it. It's like the birth of the sun. We know exactly where each gene is interacting with whom. It is so complicated that I need to print it on a 60 feet by 30 feet paper. Then I can map every interaction. It's huge. It's going to cost me $1,000 to produce it. But I can, on my computer, I can blow it up and look for it. So those are the things. So that's the first. The second thing is that people don't understand is why drugs don't work. It's very simple. When you take food, the language of the food is the DNA, okay, and RNA. It's the language of the food. Food contains DNA and RNA. Now, when it enters your body, the language of the cell is also DNA and RNA. So they're able to talk to each other. But when you take a synthetic product, there is no DNA and RNA there. What it is the drug is talking in Spanish or German or whatever, and this guy is talking Arabic or some Sanskrit or whatever. They are not communicating. It's a random event that happens with the drug, and that's why it does what it does. You get a lot of side effects. It says they don't know. But when a food comes in, the body says, hey, I know you, welcome. It lays out the red carpet. But when you modify the food, it says, I don't know you, but you were somebody else, now you're somebody else. It does a different way of presenting itself entering the body. So all these things matter. So I think we need to understand that piece. The more you process the foods, the more the body gets confused. If you look at the elephant in India, it eats only two kinds of food. And one is sugarcane, the other is rice, but it is raw. And what does it contain? It contains polycosanol, my product. But it knows how to chew it into an nano-emulsion because powerful molars it has. We don't have that kind of molars, And therefore, it can generate the juice. And you see, elephants never ever get cancer because they produce something called P53 gene. They produce 4 copies of it, the backup. And here with my product, we also produce P53. So that's why I know people start taking at a very young age. What it will do is the next generation of babies, or what will happen, will be free of genetic defects because it's going to give you the original blueprint of life, which was there before all the environmental pressures changed it.
So I've been explaining it in some ways to people as it's like a factory reset of the computer. So you get this perfect computer that then is infected with malware, viruses, etc. And the Nano Soma comes in and does a complete factory reset.
I mean, this new virus or vaccine or whatever, crazy people who take it.
Yeah.
What it's going to do is, once it goes in, it's going to recognize, hey, you guys are not supposed to be here. Out. That's what's going to happen. Guaranteed.
Thank goodness. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you. If someone does take the vaccine, would they have to go to the protocol of 4 times a day, like for a year, to get rid of it?
No, not for a year. I think 2-3 days or 4 days you should be out.
Kidding. Okay.
Because we see the virus go away in 2 or 3 days. We've had, I'll tell you a personal example. My daughter worked in Liberia during the Ebola crisis in 2015. 2015. She never got Ebola, but her friends, some of them did. Her co-workers in Liberia, because she was taking my product. So we tested it at the U.S. Army facility in Maryland, and sure enough, it kills the damn Ebola. So it doesn't matter because this guy is the godfather of these fellows. He is the teacher. The teacher is telling the student, get disciplined. I'm back. Do your homework. I will teach you again.
It's interesting though, Raghu, because when you reset the body and you give it the actual natural blueprint that we were all designed to have before corruption, whatever comes along, the body will actually then recognize that that is a foreign substance, that's a harmful substance. So what's happening, which is what I've observed, is that the reboot or the blueprint of the human physiology and the genetic expression from there on in is actually going back to its core expression of what it should be.
Correct.
So anything that comes in, as long as you're supporting the continual health of the blueprint, then everything that comes in from there will be to a degree eliminated. It won't have an effect on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what it is that we have seen in patients who have high levels of iron, for an example. It'll bring this down to the right level. Some people have low levels of iron. It brings it back to the right level, up, increases it. It works both ways. So obviously, the blueprint at work. Okay, we have seen people who produce very little insulin producing insulin. So to the right level. We're producing too much insulin, it brings it back to that level. So it is it's not an artificial intelligence, it's natural intelligence. This is the blueprint of life in this molecule. Or similar, there may be similar molecules, I don't know. At least this is the first molecule that I've seen. The blueprint of life is there. It's looking at you and saying, I'm going to analyze you. I'm going to do a triage and say, this is what needs to be fixed first. That's how it works. So it's an amazing molecule. I mean, I see, I hear things from people which is mind-boggling. We had 2 cases in Malaysia, one in Thailand, I believe. I'm talking 2015, where 2 of the people who were in coma for 2 years. Road accident. So the doctors gave up everything. The family just squirted around the mouth. Okay. A month later, they were up.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't talk about it because people already are spaced out with
mind blown.
But we have seen the reason being, the reason you go into coma or you have paralysis is because the blood vessels are blocked, or there is no blood vessel, no flow. So there is no feeling. You see? But this builds blood vessels because it increases telomerase 16-fold at 1 picogram, which is the same level homeopathy. And therefore, the cells are made, the blood begins to flow, and voila, magic happens.
Yeah.
We can explain that. Go ahead.
In terms of the telomeres growing back and growing younger, is it kind of like, because it's another metaphor I've used to try to explain it to people, it's like stem cells. So they come in and there's the blueprint for your original pure stem cell. And that's how the telomeres over time become longer. Is that accurate to say?
See, mine should be 0.88 for my age, okay?
Yep.
I am 0.99. So I am 68, 69 now, and I am technically, biologically, I'm 51. But I've been taking So my rule of thumb is every year you drop your age by a year and a half. That's about what I see.
That's nice. So every year you take it, you drop your age by a year and a half. Oh, awesome. I'm 66. I'm on my way.
Yeah. So I believe that, see, this product being a product, the Rig Veda, I mean, they wrote about this 5,000 years ago, 5,600 years ago. In fact, they describe in the Rig Veda as the essence of pristine water, blessed by Agni. Agni means fire, which also means the sun. The smell of paddy, which is rice, because this product is also found in rice, or honey, where we also find this product, or anything sweet, which is also sugarcane. So we describe the product. This product is Soma, the elixir of the gods. Soma means, so they drank this. So in Hindu mythology, we have stories of all the sages and kings living for 160, 180 years, and we used to laugh at it. I don't laugh anymore. I think it's very realistically possible. The beauty is that you could grow old without getting all these related issues. The quality of life, that's the key. It's not the quantity, it's the quality.
Yes.
I'm 69 and I play badminton about 10 hours a week. I'm professionally. I can stand in the court for 3-4. There are people 1/3 my age who will take a break after 45 minutes. They can believe that how is this guy doing it? And they never knew this for a long time. And somebody decided to Google me and found my pattern. He said, I found your secret. He said. So all my badminton friends now take it phenomenal.
Well, deepest gratitude to you. Thank you so much.
I didn't do anything. I just followed what somebody said. I followed the dots. Even though my business plan was very simple. A simple nutraceutical to replace all drugs. That was the business.
And vitamins too, Raghu. Like when you're taking Nano Soma, do you need C, D, any of the others?
A is because it also affects on vitamin A, people's eyes. That's what I call A. B is because it works in the gut bacteria. B1 to B2, B3 is produced in the gut, for which you need the vitamin D receptor to work. C is because I produce vitamin C in your body. Man cannot produce vitamin C. I'm producing it. The last time animals, dogs, if you give them sugar, they will convert the glucose to vitamin C. So they take something, sugar, make it an antioxidant.
So keep going.
But we, chimpanzees and us, we don't have that ability. We had it 40 million years ago. We lost it because a lot of plants came and all that, and this gene became dormant. It's called GULO, G-U-L-O, gene. It became dormant. That is the last step in the conversion of glucose to vitamin C. If you can do that, you can eat all the sugar you want.
So, because you cut in and out a little bit, did you just say that we don't need A, C, or D? Or we do need them?
We're restoring the original immune system. And therefore, the food you eat, see, right now, let's say you haven't taken this product, your immune system is not in balance. So some foods you eat, it's not being absorbed. Okay? It's not being absorbed. But when you restore the immune balance, it begins to absorb. See, it's producing some genes which we call as transporters. Like there is a sodium gene for sodium transport, potassium transport, phosphorus transport, glucose, oxidized vitamin C transport, amino acid transporters. All these are now being produced in the gene expression, and therefore it's able to absorb the things you want from the food itself. You don't have to take supplements.
Awesome! That is fabulous. I love you even more.
You're wasting money if you take supplements.
While we're on Nano Soma, as long as you have decent food, does the quality of the food matter?
Absolutely. I mean, you can't eat junk food to survive. I mean,
yeah.
Not American food anyway.
Yeah, not American food. Thank you so much. That was really helpful.
But your friend, would you like to put something together and write to me about your experience, what you see? I would love to have it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. I'd like I'm not that great at writing, but I'm.
No, Richard can take care of that.
Yeah, that'd be good because, like, as I said, I work with people all around the world. I work with businesses. I work with inventors as well, looking at their product, what they've done, what they haven't done, what works and what doesn't work. So, you know, and I work with a lot of people on their physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health as well, all around the world. So, being able to see things that actually haven't come into the physical form yet or haven't been able to be picked up by some sort of diagnostic equipment and things like that. And that's why when I first started using it or watching it, it was so interesting to watch what it was capable of doing and to watch how it was actually working and what the expression of particular genes were. And as I said, I have no medical background. I just know what they are.
Yeah, so put your parts together and we can edit it out. It's good to know, you know.
Yeah.
Because we have
she's amazing, Raghu.
Another person.
What's that?
A doctor in Chicago, Dr. Howard Olin, is a trained MD. He's a psychologist. Then he became a kinesiologist, and he's also trained in ancient one of the tribes, American Indian tribes, medicine man. You know, and he does a lot of things by this whatever spiritual intuition. The first time he took my product, he said most product he believes if they cross 1,000, not even 100. When he feels that it's 1,000. With my product, get 1 trillion %.
1 trillion.
Trillion.
Wow.
And see, I would say exactly the same thing. And the reason I would say it is because it's actually not of this world. It's actually what we were born to create and who we were born to be. So it actually has that fine, very, very fine particle that has the memory of who we really are and how we're supposed to, what the blueprint of our humanness is. And then and so when you look at that, you can't see it as a, like a piece of dirt or a speck or anything like that, because it's actually not. And you only need one tiny particle, because as it touches something, as it's infused anywhere, it actually keeps growing and expanding. That's the only way I can describe it.
2009, I went to India. I showed somebody the sample, the first time we made in Switzerland, the sample, because the word pristine in Sanskrit has 280 words that describe water.
Mm-hmm.
It's shocking to a lot of. So I didn't know what this pristine meant, because it could be water from some source. I knew it was, because the American water was not exactly that great. We got results, but not that great. Then one of the guys explained to me, Vedic scholar, he said pristine means the melting snows of Mount Kailash, where Richard has been to. It's actually in China now. It is supposed to be the home of Shiva or whatever, of the gods. So that's when I got the idea of Switzerland. The melting air. And also in Switzerland, they do one thing which nobody does. They ozonize the water. They pass ozone through the water, and that destroys any organic residues into gases, and they all escape. So you get pristine water in the tap. That is why we use Switzerland, not for any other reason. People have tried to copy this in India and China, haven't succeeded, because the water has a lot of, even in US, if you look at my pattern, the peak is sharp. It's absolutely symmetrical, like nature intended to be. I make it in India, it's like something like this. In China, it's like this. In Australia, it's like this, because Australian water has a higher proportion of selenium in the soil, in the water. That's a problem. So the very few countries where I can make, one of the countries I can really make it is in New Zealand. The water is very good. Population, whatever. So Austria, I can make it in Denmark. There's one other place I forgot. Switzerland, of course. Finland, I can make it. Norway, I can make it. So there are 4 or 5 or 6 countries that the water is pristine. Natural. It's not like other countries' water. So I'm lucky. So, when I described it, I spent 3 years trying to figure out the water. We got samples from all over the world and made a lot of work we did. Finally, we got a stable product. Most of the other ones you can make, but they are not stable. Mine is stable for years. I have samples sitting for 10 years, no problem.
Awesome.
And
yeah,
today,
that's an interesting conversation we could have about that water. I understand that.
But
She
anyway,
is amazing, Raghu.
I would like to keep it as a record, because I have, when the first time I took this to my Vedic guy, he looked at it, he knew me because, when I was born, he did some horoscope and he said, hey, this will do the following things. He wrote down everything. Diabetes, type 1, he wrote down type 2, asthma, kidney disease, everything. He even wrote the word rejuvenate your body. He did not telomerase, that word, but we have seen it happen. So it does a lot of things. To me, I'm no longer surprised by what it does.
Yeah.
It took me 5 years before I became comfortable, because I was trained in pharma. I worked in pharma all my life. So that was a problem. I re-educated myself by deprogramming myself and getting re-educated. That process took 10 years.
Well, congratulations, because you've done an amazing job, and thank you so much for your product and what you've done.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Raghu, and this is Karen, when you said that the other supplements are not needed, that's just on the regular 1 spray a day, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to, because you will confuse the body when you take a spray, because the body is saying, how come I'm getting a lot of vitamin C? So I'm going to do nothing with vitamin C because this guy is going to feed me,
So is it more confusing for the body to take other supplements with this?
Yeah, because that doesn't realize. You see, the body usually works by taking the supplements from the food, which is in a the vitamin C that you get from the food is in a different form than the vitamin pill you take. So the body is confused.
I recently just discovered the product. He introduced it to me not long, I think, after he connected with you, Richard. I got the product January 1st and started taking it. I've got more energy. I'm sleeping better. I was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago and been on a natural journey, and things have come to me at the time that I needed them. And I know this was brought to me at the time that I needed it. And I know this is just going to take me to that other level and of total health. And I am so excited to be a part of this. I know I'm here for a definite purpose. It's an amazing team. And I'm excited to start getting this product out to lots of friends and family and just watch that snowball start rolling, because it's going. The momentum's there and I can feel it, and it's going to be exciting. I cannot wait to see where we are in about 6 to 8 months.
Raghu, it's John here. I'm a friend of Richard's, as you probably know, and I've been taking Nano Soma for just over 12 months. Mm-hmm. I'm 60, when am I, 68? Mm-hmm.
Same age as me. You're the same age as me.
Yeah, there you go. And except you've got more hair. But I'm putting the gel on my scalp every day in hope. But I've been taking the spray just once a day, 5 sprays for about 13, 14 months now. And I didn't have much wrong with me to start with. I did have some varicose veins sticking out on my shin, on my leg, or just to the side of my shin. And being a bloke, I wasn't too concerned about it. But I had no intention of doing anything about it. But one of the things I hadn't really, because it's one of those things that it's there and you don't see it, and so you don't look at it. But I was drying my leg one day about a couple of months ago, and I thought, they've gone. They're not there anymore. And it's just like, obviously they just gradually, not overnight, but I noticed it just like that. So that was a wonderful demonstration of the efficacy of Nano Soma, which I was very, very blessed to have. And I just think it's a wonderful thing you've brought into the world, and we all need to be advocates of it and get it out there. And I want to do my part to help that happen.
Thank you. One of the things I want to mention is people ask me how long it will take me to become to the true normal, to the original blueprint, And this is something there are a few of us who have been taking this product for a long time. My Swiss colleagues, they take this regularly and they have no absenteeism from sickness for the last, God knows how many years. They produce it. But what I found, the rule of thumb is that for every year of life on earth, it varies between 2 to 3 weeks per year to get you back to normal. So let's say your age is 30. You have some issues. So it will take about 2 to 3 weeks per year. So it's about 60 to 90 weeks. Your immune system is reset. That's what I see in people. That's an approximate. Some maybe take a longer. Some people take less time. About the hair, the one thing I found out is this, that once you cross 55 or 60, it's much difficult to grow. But before that, we had a lot of people growing it, no problem. So that is, I haven't lost the hair, but, it's great. But you cannot lose it. People have lost hair because they have used statins. Statins reduce cholesterol, and the tip of it's held by cholesterol, actually. So once that's gone, you lose your hair. That we see in America. A lot of people who don't have hair because they're taking statins. So.
It's not my biggest worry, but still.
Yeah, but you never know. 60. You haven't. Let's say 68 into 2 is 136 weeks. So it's just over 2.5 years. So who knows? We haven't got there yet. Maybe 2 years. But you won't lose hair. This is the other part. See, whatever hair you left will be there. It won't go away.
Excellent. Thank you.
I want to introduce to you Dr. Lalit Anande. He is he's been fighting TB in India for 35, 40 years of experience. He's about to retire, and he and I share a goal that we want to eliminate TB in India in a year and a half by August 15th of 2022, which will be the 75th anniversary of independence. So I want to introduce you to Lalit to give you his experience, briefly with some of the patients who were TB patients. Now we have TB, we have extreme drug-resistant TB and multiple drug-resistant TB. So Lalit, the floor is yours. So let them know what is your experience and thinking.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yes.
Oh, yes. I have been dealing with this deadly topic called a disease called tuberculosis in India, mostly pulmonary tuberculosis, for the last 30 years. And the hospital where I worked is 1,200 bedded hospital, where people with both the lungs damaged, destroyed, in this kind of conditions they come, and they are expecting us to do some wonders with the anti-TB drugs. I mean, how can you do a termite called tuberculosis? It's eating the wood called lungs, and after that, they are asking us to give them back life. The wood has already been eaten by the termite. It's very difficult. I mean, I have seen people die on a daily basis in huge numbers. I myself used to sign 6 to 9 death certificates per day. And in that hospital, in that pathetic conditions, when they used to come gasping for breath, it was working in the battlefield. It is a torture for me. What to do? Because the anti-TB drugs or are already on the dead end. More and more resistance is happening. Seeing a lot of patients who are total drug resistant. Means out of the 13 drugs, they are resistant to 10, maybe 9, maybe 11 drugs. And to form a regimen to start treatment, we have to give at least minimum 4 drugs. So out of 13, if people are resistant to 10 drugs, 11 drugs, and all those kind of things, the lung damages, what are you going to do about it? And this is increasing day by day. Added to this thing, we are also getting populations who are suffering from diabetes as well as HIV. All these things, problems are there with us. I started using vitamin D and vitamin C for the last 1 decade, I can say so. Mega dosing, not the usual dosage. The dose I used to cross, I mean, you'll be stunned that vitamin D 60,000 international unit. I used to ask them to take alternate day, which usually doctors prescribe. Not usually, always the dosage is once a week. I had to give them alternate day or daily also. And vitamin C, the minimum dose of the synthetic vitamin C I'm talking about, not what Dr. Raghavan is saying, is 1 lakh milligram per day. Crossing that limits of 1 lakh, 100,000, 100,000 to 200,000. I have reached levels of 350,000 milligrams per day. That for 10 to 20 days and all those things to see some relief in the patients. I cannot change the damaged lungs, but here comes something. People are allergic to this mega dosing, and they have to get admitted to give it IV. Here comes a wonder thing. When I was introduced to the product of Dr. Raghavan, I wondered, I mean, how come he can attain this mega dose in that spray? He has really cracked that thing. The thing what he said about GULO, which breaks down sugar, which actually forms vitamin C from sugar, he has made it alive. I mean, I do not require to give that mega dosing of a synthetic product there itself. I mean, it will be found in its body itself. Over and about to that, the vitamin D, which naturally, if you go into sunlight and expose your skin more of it is on your abdomen, chest, back, your legs. To expose this skin on a daily basis in India is a strict cultural no-no. We are not allowed to do that. One of my patients, interestingly, I'll say, went to the mountain sites and used to sit naked over there because nobody used to come over there to take in his daily dose of vitamin D. Surprisingly, some trekkers went over there, took a photograph, and complained to the police that he's sitting naked over there. He had to convince the police that I had come here to take my vitamin D because I'm suffering from tuberculosis. You idiots! We have people, tourists, a lot of tourists coming to a place in India which is very famous called Goa. A lot of tourists are there, and they be in their bikinis and they take vitamin D. But a lot of Indians go over there with their binoculars to look at them, not to take vitamin D. That's the most funny part. In TB, vitamin C and vitamin D happens to be very, very, very important part of the treatment. This is what I've understood. And here comes something different. That without doing all these things in your home, they can just go on spraying this thing and increase the levels of vitamin D also and C also. I came across, means I was recently introduced to this product a few months back. um, there was a girl who was suffering from total drug resistance. Almost 10 drugs out of 13 is called total drug resistance. It's a very dangerous kind of tuberculosis. And she had pus pouring out from the front of her chest because the pus has collected inside the chest, and it took an outlet from as a boil on the upper side of the chest, on the front side, on the right side. She was pouring pus. It was diagnosed to be total drug resistant, but yet that in this COVID era, it happened, and she was in a very troublesome period. What to do? Drugs are not available. Doctors are not seeing her. Everybody has shunted her. She's going to extreme pain. The depression, seeing pus pouring out from the anterior part of her chest above her breast, as well as nobody to help. It was just on a phone call, things started happening, and I asked her to take Nano Soma, and I was stunned to see the results. Her weight started increasing, her appetite increased, the pus stopped. The radiological CT scan picture of her chest shows remarkable improvement. What is there inside? This was one miraculous case. And there's another case who got admitted, a young girl with serious kind of coughing and lesions in their lung, diagnosed tuberculosis. And within 3 flat days after taking nanosoma, all this coughing, fever, and all this thing vanished. I do not expect this to happen in my last 30 plus years of experience to go in a TB patient with anti-TB drugs. It never happens so fast. So there are so many experiences which are pouring into this after using this. And the sole reason is Dr. Raghavan has made a wonderful crack through of making natural vitamin C in the body and vitamin D also. I used to wonder why the rats are staying in gutters, and they have a romantic lifestyle staying in these gutters. The children are not born in maternity home, they are born in gutters. Why do they not have infections after staying in the gutters? The rats. They are making a lot of vitamin C in their body. I assume that it is 9,000 milligrams on a per day basis, and that shoots up whenever they want to naturally. So here comes one fantastic formulations called Nano Soma or whatever the name is given in any country, which will make you produce that thing which uh, we humans are not making. simply because the GULO thing which is there is lying silent over there, plus the vitamin D also. Yes, Dr. Raghavan?
Thank you. I just wanted to say that the vitamin C we take is not the same what the body produces. It could be any kind of a complex, and that's why it's more effective. If they were the same, we should see a similar result, which we don't see. And the reason we have now estimated that my particle is 1,000 times more potent than vitamin D itself, because this product came before vitamin D came. See, vitamin D happened in this world because the animals went from sea to land. They became amphibians. That's when vitamin D happened, because there was not much calcium on the land. There had a lot of calcium in seawater.
I just had one more question because it cut out a little bit while Dr. Raghu was speaking about vitamins and supplements. And should you stop taking them as soon as you start taking Nano Soma, or do you wait for a while for the body to build up its levels, or what's the kind of advice you would give?
My line in the sand would be you don't need them anymore, but you don't have to stop them. And in terms of vitamins, it wasn't exactly clear. I think there's still a place for vitamin E, but it comes in the product. So you don't have to worry about vitamin supplementation anymore. All the others are generated in the body as a result of the action of Nano Soma, or they're replaced. In the case of vitamin D, it's substituted for. More than that, the way this acts with the vitamin D receptor, and from the evidence, all of the nuclear receptors, is it regulates it. Vitamin D doesn't regulate the vitamin D receptor. It only turns it on, which is why we have diseases like Parkinson's and ALS and so many other things that actually result of the result of an overactive vitamin D receptor. Nano Soma shuts them down. This particle is both conscious and intelligent. And when we begin to understand that, we can embrace it. And the challenge for all of us that engage with it is beginning to wake up humanity to the extraordinary gift that this is. And in fact, it's simply something that's been forgotten. And dare I say it, perhaps intentionally, so it can emerge in our world in the middle of this nonsense, this scamdemic and all that's been attached to it, so it can all be swept away. But that's a deeper conversation.
And so Raghu had said, if you were taking supplements, though, that even though the Nano Soma is resetting everything, then your body basically says, well, I don't need to do that because I'm supplementing. So, Raghu, you were going to say something, I think.
No, what it is this. We don't need supplements because it's already in the food. The problem is we are not absorbing from the food. The first thing that Nano Soma does is get all the transporters active. Okay, when the guy comes in, welcome him. So see, you take vitamin C, you need a transporter. They need a taxi in the body to go somewhere. So this produces the genes that welcome whatever is in the food, not whatever is in the supplement. The supplement is synthetic. The body is not recognizing it fully.
Right.
And
in terms of glutathione, for the many who don't have the gene for glutathione, will the Nano Soma reinstall that?
Yeah, it does that. We have seen it. It's in my patent actually. We increase GSH. When it binds to the vitamin D receptor, is what you need to increase GSH. You see? So it already does that. They increase the GSH in the body.
Which is glutathione.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you don't have to. That's the beauty of this. It goes to the vitamin D receptor, binds, and tells it, okay, make some GSH, make some vitamin C, take care of vitamin A. So I got A, B, C, D. I'm E. So, we have A, B, C, D, 5 fingers, 5 sprays. We're done. That's how I came.
Nice.
B2, B3, B6 are made in the gut. They also need the vitamin D receptor. vitamin D is present in every organ and tissue in the body, receptors. Every place there's a vitamin D receptor. It's there for a reason. That reason is we need to produce vitamin D. I mean, you are lucky you're in Australia, so you have plenty of sunshine. But if you look at the map of the world, 77% of the people live where there is sunshine 300 days a year. This is the key. And people who live north of Atlanta, Georgia, have very low levels of vitamin D because there's not much sun. That's why people retire and go to Florida. There's a reason for it. People think, oh, I go in the sun, I will get skin cancer. So they put the SPF. But SPF prevents the production of vitamin D. So you get skin cancer. Oh, I was in the sun, I got this spot. That's because everybody who got skin cancer had low levels of vitamin D. But the scientific establishment will never agree, even though they can see it in their face. That's why life evolved in Africa. That's where the sun was. Where the sun was, life evolved. It didn't evolve in the North Pole. The origin, man. So when the population in Africa migrated north to Europe and colder place, the body had to make vitamin D. So there are very few foods in the world that contains vitamin D. Very few. Cod liver oil, okay. A few, one or two mushrooms. But there is nothing. So the skin became lighter to make vitamin D. That's how white people evolved. And also, if you notice, people in the world, in every culture, the skin tone for women is lighter than the men in that same area. Even in Africa, you can see it. That's because the nature wants you to make vitamin D because you are the one who is creating life. And during birth, fetus needs high levels of vitamin D. And you see this play out in Middle East where they're covered, they don't make vitamin D. And if you look at the disease pattern, 35 to 40% of the people have MS or something or the other, obesity, diabetes, hypertension, kidney disease. It's all very high in these areas. There's a 92% deficiency of vitamin D in the Middle East. All the sun is there. All they need to do is 10-15 minutes. No, you see the air conditioner. In India, with all the sun, we still have 85% deficiency in vitamin D.
And one last question. In terms of gut health, how do we explain the impact of the Nano Soma on gut health?
Yeah, for gut health to multiply, they still need the vitamin D receptor.
And probiotics, prebiotics, all that stuff?
Absolutely. Because when they bind to vitamin D, it produces antimicrobial peptides, or we call it antibiotics. That antibiotic will go in and destroy any gut bacteria that shouldn't be there. If they are there, then your gut bacteria is dysfunctional. And that controls 85 to 90% of our immune system because it talks to the brain. So everything is linked to everything. It's not like you're treating one or other. You have to treat the entire body. And that's what Nano Soma does. The whole body approach.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Yeah.
So what about somebody who doesn't eat as well? If they're not necessarily on the standard American diet, but not eating super clean. So where do they fall within the Nano Soma, not taking supplements? Would it take them longer to see an impact? They need to take more? What's the impact of how somebody's diet is with the product?
So it's like this, okay? You're not eating a proper diet. So technically, if you didn't take Nano, you would get into more disease states.
Yep.
By taking Nano, you postpone getting into those states by a certain X amount of time. Okay, so that's probably what happens.
Okay.
If anything dangerous happens, it immediately cuts it down. I had it's 7 years ago, there was actually my cousin's daughter, her blood sugar was 550. close to fasting. We're talking fasting. She was close to, she could have gone into coma. But the first day she took 5 sprays, the very next day her fasting level was 350.
Wow.
And the next day it was 220. And after a week it was 160. She felt totally different person. So anything that is very high, it will quickly correct. Anything is in the borderline. Now there are people who have, sugar levels of 120, 115. It takes a much longer because it doesn't sense it that it's dangerous at this stage. It's something manageable. The body can. Because when I came to US in 1972, the fasting levels that are recommended by the American Diabetic Association was 140. But 10 years later, it became 126.
Yeah.
They changed it to 110. Now they call it 100. So this is a random number.
Yeah, it changes depending on the population.
Yeah, and also to sell more, classify something.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Raghu, can I just have a comment on that one too?
Yeah.
My observation is that the body, Nano Soma works on a priority system within the body. So it looks at what is the highest priority or the most extreme condition or the part that needs the most work first. So it works on a priority system. So when it works on the one that's at the deepest core level, it works there first and builds its way up the pyramid, so to speak. So the one that is the condition or the underlying challenge, which is the most highest sensitive, that's where it goes first. And then it builds from there, because you have to have that foundation correct. If you don't get that foundation correct in the first place, all you're doing is a symptomatic treatment plan. So that's how the body works.
What we are dealing is with cure. We are not dealing with controlling symptoms. And that's a paradigm shift in thinking and action.
Yeah. So that's why some people will find that, some symptom that they have may take a little bit longer, but the core element that's at the base that needs changing and correcting, that's where it goes first and foremost. So you're not treating a symptom, you're actually treating the body as a whole and looking at the priority of it.
My aunt, she had hypertension for 30 years. About 10 years ago, when I first gave her a sample when I was in India, she took it at night, and next morning, we live close by. Next morning, her son came running to me, said, my mom wants to talk to you. So I went to see her. She said, Raghu, something extraordinary happened. I took this. In the morning, I felt that something heavy in my head had gone. And I slept so well. It was so deep. I was floating in space, whatever something she said. And we measured her blood pressure. It was 110/70 overnight. After 30 years of BP, she went to her room, took all the pills and flushed it down the toilet. She had like a pharmacy there. And that I see that happen. I've seen that happen. So we've seen a lot of things happen and people are in denial. But I always say this is what we see. So that's why I did all this gene expression, all this work to justify to the highly so-called sophisticated crowd, hey, we have the proof here. Because the level of proof we have of how it works is higher than what any drug in pharma has. Very high.
And is Richard, or Raghu, is there one place where there's all of these listed? I know there are some on the website. All your research and results?
Yeah, everything is there on the website. It's on the website.
There is a link on the nanosoma.com to Raghu's papers and patents. And if you remind me, I'll send you a link to that page where they are all specifically linked. But they're all linked to from the nanosoma.com. So you go to the science or I can't remember what the link is, but you'll quickly figure out where the link is. It'll take you to all of Raghu's papers and patents. It's all there. It's all there. You can find it all if you look.
One of the recent things we have done with stem cells in a lab in India where they do a lot of stem cell work, is we took stem cells and added our nano, and it produced all the genes that are needed in developing the heart. This is the amazing part. So see, when you get a heart attack, there is a scar left in your body, in your heart. Heart is a muscle. It's not a bone. It's a muscle. There's a scar. It can never get fixed so far. So we can now generate the gene that can fix that scar. We have found that the gene is expressed 70-fold at 1 picogram. 1 picogram is 12x of homeopathy. At a very low concentration, it's producing this gene. Not this alone. There are 5 other genes that produce. All that are responsible for the heart. And I think Richard can tell you the story of Debbie, who had a heart problem and how she recovered.
Many of you have, I've sent it to, but I was contacted by one of my long-term customers saying that his partner, Bev, actually not Debbie, but Bev had been diagnosed with major heart issues, and the cardiologist wanted to operate immediately, but the surgeon said she's not well enough, let's leave it for 30 days. So he said, is there something you would recommend that might help? And I said, well, why don't you give her Nano Soma for 30 days? She may not need the surgery. So he actually did that. And frankly, in the craziness of my life, I'd completely forgotten the conversation. And he called me one day, I was having lunch, and he said, you said to do this. Well, what's happened in 30 days is the blood clot that was the largest that the cardiologist had ever seen had disappeared. Not only that, her mitral valve, which was in a pretty bad way, and it turns out apparently she had rheumatic fever or something when she was young, which is a very common cause for heart issues, that her mitral valve, which was in a pretty bad state, was about 90+% healed in 30 days. I promise you, you show that testimonial to any cardiologist, they will say this is impossible, this cannot happen. Nothing like this happens, because there is nothing inside the allopathic medical system that heals the heart. But when you put this little magical particle of that Raghu has shared with us into the body, it even heals the heart, which, our traditional medicine, so-called tradition, it's only 100 years old, but our current model of medicine, let's put it that way, tells you is impossible. Well, it's not. And this simple little magical particle from Raghu has triggered this woman to clear this huge blood clot in her heart and mostly heal her mitral valve. I don't know where it is now. We're at least 2 or 3 weeks down the path from there, and I promise you still using it. So who knows where it's going. And to me, the whole point of this is we're in a period of recovery. Most of us are suffering health issues because this hasn't been present with us. But a few years down the track, this whole conversation about health that we have today will disappear because we will have this magic in our lives. And our bodies will work in a way that we didn't believe was possible. And dare I say it, our dark friends who run our world have been using this to manipulate us. Well, guess what? It's just about to be ripped out of their hands. It's a very exciting time we live in. And this beautiful particle that Raghu has reintroduced to us is such a key component of disarming those who are running our world. We are going to get set free in many ways, and this is a key piece of the puzzle. So thank you, Raghu. Yep, once more time.
Hopefully we'll have some more news by the next time we meet, some other new thing we have found out. Every day we find out something. By the way, today, I had some small study done in a place in the lab in India, and I said there's so many microbes that grow there on the windows because the tropical country. I said take a swipe and see how much bacteria is there in that spot. So in that lab, different places they took swabs and let the bacteria grow. Then what we did is we sprayed that area with very dilute solution of nano, took a swipe again. Guess what? We didn't find any bacteria growing. Wow. So it's a natural disinfectant. it does the same thing inside our body, very same way. So if you just spray on your hand and rub it, that's it. You don't need to do anything else. So it'll be a wonderful disinfectant, natural disinfectant. You give people once 2 or 3 milliliters of the water of the stuff, and you dilute it 30 times. So they add water, quickly use it, they disinfected that place.
Wow.
So that's another application. Make a small bottle, tell them add the rest, fill it up with water, with a sprayer, they spray and clean. That's it. Bacteria is gone. If you have any questions, Richard is there or I'm there, you can write to me, or Karen also is now. But by the end of 2 or 3 conversation, most of you will be an MD. I thought I called doctor, I call them MD.
Thank you, Raghu, for all of your input.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
See you guys later. We'll talk soon.
Bye.
Okay.
All right. Bye.